Yo, yo, welcome to Trippy Commentaries and our NFL Week 10 preview. I'm RJ, joined up via satellite with K-Mac coming from Virginia.
Yo, yo, what up?
What's up, Kyle? Hopefully you're having a good time up there up north. Of course, we are based out of Tampa Bay, Florida, so I'm sure it's nice to get up north and actually experience the change of seasons, which we do not have at all here in Florida. But let's go ahead and break down this week in the NFL. The main thing we got to talk about before getting into these games, Kyle, is the New England domination over Denver. I mean, I don't think any of us saw it coming. I actually predicted New England to win the game, but it was only because they were at home. I just kind of trusted that home environment. Peyton Manning has shown that he's really not the best there in New England. But the Patriots came out looking great. Perhaps they are the best team in the NFL. What are you thinking after this game?
Oh, you know what? I went against the Patriots at home again, and I even talked about it in our video last week. I was like, you know, I should have learned my lesson the first time against the Bengals when I thought the Bengals had a chance in New England there in Week 5. But Belichick got me again, and it was a crazy game, man. You know, Manning after the game even came out and said that he played like crap. He flat out said, you know, he did not play well. New England just looked remarkably good. Offense was clicking. I don't think Denver had a chance to stop New England's offense at all in that game. And just a really crazy turnaround now in the AFC because, you know, we had Denver as being the #1 team. And the Patriots, you know, after that victory, they're clicking. And that team right now is definitely moving up the list and the #1 team in the NFL.
Yeah, man, the two things we were looking at to start the season with the Patriots, because their defense was playing okay, was Gronkowski just didn't look like himself, and their offensive line sucked. And now all of a sudden, both of those look like a strength, which really changes that team around. I have them as the #1 seed overall, just because I thought the Broncos were by far the #1 seed, and then you have the Patriots come in and curb stomp them. That changes it up, and honestly, I can't think of a team that is on their level right now. The one team I think that will get hot and be able to compete with them, other than Denver, coming from the NFC, is the Green Bay Packers. I think Green Bay is going to get hot. I like what they got going on. But what about you, K-Mac? Do you think New England is currently the best team in the league?
Man, like I said, they've really been rolling. Obviously, in Week 8, we saw them destroy the Bears. And then, you know, the last week's victory over Denver, everything is going good for them. And we knew this team needed Gronkowski to be, you know, come back and be at full strength, and we're starting to see that. So with him, Brandon LaFell, we saw a huge game out of Julian Edelman last week. Everything is working good for him. And the surprising thing is their defense is really playing well. They lost Gerard Mayo, and we thought that, you know, that would end up hurting New England's chances of having a run this year. But really, it hasn't affected them at all. The defense is playing great. And, you know, whenever you can shut down a Denver Broncos team, only holding to 21 points, which is still a decent amount, but for that, the firepower that the Broncos have, the Patriots to pretty much be able to control them for most of the game, that says a lot for that defense.
Yeah, good call, man. It's too bad that Gerard Mayo and Chandler Jones are injured, because you can only imagine how good they would be with those two guys who were clearly the best players on their defense, and now both of them are out. It's crazy that they've been able to galvanize around the players they do have and become the clear-cut best team as of right now, Week 10. But there's a lot of football to be played, and the team that plays the best heading into the final quarter of the season is most likely the team who's going to win the Super Bowl. Let's go ahead and kick off our predictions here and our breakdown of every game coming up on Sunday and Monday night. Starting off in London, the final game over across the pond there of the season. The Dallas Cowboys, Kyle, they're coming off some back-to-back terrible losses, and they're going to London to face off with Jacksonville. This looks like a game put on a tee for them, but if they don't have Tony Romo, it could be a spoiler alert. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it really depends on if Romo is going to be good enough to play. Brandon Weeden looked terrible last week, and I really thought Brandon Weeden was going to have a chance last week to at least lead the Cowboys to a victory. I thought he was going to go to at least do enough, and the running game I thought was going to be able to carry that team last week. But it really shows that how much Tony Romo is needed on this team. I mean, Tony Romo gets so much crap all the time about possibly blowing games and not looking good. But I mean, last week just really showed that he is a focal point of that team for that offense, and without Tony Romo in there, that team cannot be trusted.
That's for sure. I gotta say, Mike, who has some really crazy picks this week, we're gonna feature his picks. He went with Jacksonville, so he thinks that the Cowboys will fall once again, possibly just kind of putting that whole franchise into a state of panic after they looked so good to start off the season. Just to give you guys a breakdown on our picks this season so far, of course, we started last week. We're going to take it all the way through to the Super Bowl. Mike got 7 of 12 games correct last week. Justin got 6 of 12 correct. I actually got 8 of 12 correct, so I had a pretty good week. Kyle, you only got 5 games correct. Now, I've known you for a long time. You're normally pretty much spot on when it comes to your picks. You're coming off of a bad week, so you're going to have to work your way back up. What do you think for your first prediction, Dallas versus Jacksonville?
Yeah, I mean, last week to me was a crazy week. I mean, I thought there was definitely some clear-cut teams that were going to easily win games, and it just didn't happen, man. This season's kind of been that way, and we were talking in some earlier videos that we've done about, even though the season's been crazy, we've kind of been getting lucky and still doing pretty good on our picks. I think the season finally caught up on me last week and made me look pretty bad, but looking to bounce back this week, I got to go with Dallas in this one to beat Jacksonville. 6.5 points. I think they can cover that. Obviously, that depends on Romo. I think if Romo plays, I'm taking them to cover the 6.5. If he does not play, I'm still thinking they're going to win, but maybe not cover that 6.5.
I'm definitely going to go with Dallas here. They burned me last week. I really thought that DeMarco Murray was going to get it going and lead that team to a victory. And I thought Brandon Weeden would look much better. He looked pathetic. This is just an easy matchup when it comes to their running game. I think last week they know that they didn't run it nearly enough. They're going to turn that around this week, have an easier game. The one thing to be worried about is Denard Robinson. If he goes off, this could be a huge loss for the Cowboys, but I think they're going to survive, get the victory, and with Philadelphia now all of a sudden being run by Mark Sanchez, that's really going to put that rivalry in the limelight heading to the end of the season. Which team can hold off? Can the Cowboys come back now? Because all of a sudden they're behind the Eagles. I look for them to beat Jacksonville in this game. Miami taking on Detroit. These are 2 impressive teams. I mean, Miami really killed San Diego last week. None of us saw it coming. They won 37-0, K-Mac. But they have a tough test traveling to Detroit.
Yeah, and Detroit's defensive line is definitely the X factor in this game. If that Detroit defensive line can get pressure to Tannehill, that will definitely probably lead in victory for Detroit. But this is my one upset of the week, actually. I am going to go with Miami to win this game. Right now, Miami has the number 2 pass defense, and Detroit has a non-existent rushing game. So I think Miami is going to do enough to be able to shut down Calvin Johnson, be able to shut down Detroit's offense. And I think Miami is going to get enough done from what I've seen from them the past couple weeks to put up enough points and go into Detroit and beat them.
There's no way I can pick Miami here. I'm definitely going with Detroit. I like them a lot in this game just because of their run defense. That's really why Miami is doing so well, is because Lamar Miller has turned into a beast. He got injured, but he's actually going to play, I think. And the problem is it's just such a good run defense that I think Detroit's going to shut him down. We have the return of Calvin Johnson, and because of that, I think Detroit's going to whoop some ass. I'm going to pick Detroit. You and Mike picked Miami. We'll see what happens. If Miami wins that game, then that makes them a serious contender here. That would be an extremely impressive victory.
Definitely going to be a close game and a good one to watch.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually really looking forward to that, including also another game that I want to talk to you about pretty soon, just to kind of give you a preview, San Francisco versus New Orleans. But before we get to that, we got to break down this Kansas City versus Buffalo game, K-Mac. Buffalo is at home, But with the Viper Kyle Orton, do you think they can actually outlast Kansas City's run game with Jamal Charles, and all of a sudden the Chiefs' defense is improved as well?
I'm taking Kansas City in this one to cover. I think with their number one pass defense they have right now, Kyle Orton's going to have a tough time with their young receivers. Definitely going to have a tough time getting separation. And the other side of it, the Buffalo run game, we don't know. We're not certain on who's going to be playing. If Fred Jackson's going to be the guy, it's kind of hard to say that he's going to be able to be healthy enough to really carry the load. So you're looking at kind of a committee by running back here for Buffalo. And look at this. I mean, Kansas City hasn't given up a rushing touchdown this season. So not looking good for Buffalo on this one. I'm taking Kansas City.
Mike is also going to pick Kansas City. I'm actually going to go with Buffalo here. I do like Kyle the Viper Orton to actually win the game here. Sammy Watkins got banged up, but it looks like he's going to play. And I think they're going to win a very low-scoring affair. And this should be a pretty good game as well. A tough game to pick if you're going to Vegas. But I do like Buffalo at home. I think the crowd will be ruckus. And Kyle Orton will show up. I know he hasn't been the best. He's made some pretty bad plays, but at least he's better than E.J. Manuel. New Orleans versus San Francisco, Kyle. I alluded to it. This is a very serious game. San Francisco coming off a bummer of a loss. Perhaps they were looking ahead to this game. In New Orleans, I can't see San Francisco winning it.
No. This is a game, actually, that I feel pretty confident betting on this week. Right now they have New Orleans favored by 5. I'm taking New Orleans at home. New Orleans has been rolling, man. The past 2 weeks they've looked really good. Week 8 they beat the Packers 44-23. We saw them last week on Thursday night whoop up on the Panthers 28-10. San Francisco's got all kinds of problems right now. Kaepernick was sacked 8 times last week. He's been sacked 27 times this year, which leads the league. That offensive line has got all kinds of problems. Kaepernick's not looking comfortable, and I expect a lot of the same to happen this week in New Orleans.
I agree 100%. I think the Saints are going to control the game. No Patrick Willis in this game. Obviously, Navarro Bowman's not back as well. I think the Saints are going to have their way. San Francisco now looking at back-to-back losses after this. And, that St. Louis loss was terrible. I didn't see it coming. I thought San Francisco was on the rise. I think that changed it all, and they might miss the playoffs because, let's be honest, you got Seattle who's going to come back up, and Arizona runs that division. San Francisco is going to be left out. Let's move on here, Kyle. We have the Tennessee Titans traveling to the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore's actually favored by 9.5. Mike went Baltimore. Obviously, I'm going to go Baltimore. I'm assuming you have to go Baltimore here.
Yeah, I think everyone is going to be picking Baltimore in this one. That's why I think they pretty much have, except for the Denver game, they have the second highest favor spread to cover here this week. I still think they cover that 9.5 points. Baltimore's got all kinds of weapons right now, and even the run game has surprisingly been really well this year without actually having a solid number one. I guess you could say Forsett's kind of been that number one guy. But even with the committee there, they're able to move the ball on the ground as well as in the air. Look for Steve Smith to have a big game this week.
Yeah, I really don't think Tennessee stands much of a chance here. Baltimore's coming off of a pretty bad loss, even though they're a great team. It's just they ran into a hot Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh at night where that crowd was extremely fired up. I think Baltimore's going to bounce back here at home against Tennessee. They look like a definite strong seed here in the AFC.
Yeah, and a perfect segue into this next game, man. We got Pittsburgh going to New York. Pittsburgh favored by 5. RJ, I'm interested to see, do you think Pittsburgh can pull off the same kind of offensive production that they have done the past 2 weeks?
I really do, because once again, this is just setting up perfect for Roethlisberger. The Jets, their defense has been struggling, but if there's one thing they can do, it's stop the run. I think Le'Veon Bell will be able to get the job done a little bit on the ground, but honestly, they almost use him in the passing game just as much as the running game these days. This guy right here, Ben Roethlisberger, is extremely hot. I look for it to continue. I picked Pittsburgh. They're only favored by by 5. So put your money on the Steelers. Kyle, you picking Michael Vick?
No, I'm gonna go with Big Ben. I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh. I don't think he's gonna have 6 touchdown passes. Just because I don't think the Jets' offense is going to be able to keep up with Pittsburgh's offense. I'm not sure they're going to really need to throw 6 touchdown passes this week. I think the odds are 20-1 that he actually throws 6 touchdown passes again this week, which would be pretty crazy if he can pull that off 3 weeks in a row. I don't think that's ever happened before in the NFL. So definitely be a crazy thing to see if he can do it, but. I think Pittsburgh's easily going to cover this 5-point spread, and they're going to go into New York and do what most teams have been doing, open up on the Jets.
Yeah. Pittsburgh, man. We just talked about Baltimore, even though they lost last week, going to bounce back and become one of the strongest seeds in the AFC. Pittsburgh, they're going to keep rolling, and both those teams are going to have to clash once again. I don't think we see the last of them. They're probably going to have a playoff game against one another. Who's going to have the home field advantage? Of course, Cincinnati's still sitting around as well. Atlanta traveling to Tampa Bay. This is a crazy game, Kyle, because Atlanta completely destroyed Tampa last time, yet they're only favored by 1.5. This time it's in Raymond James Stadium there in Florida. And the Buccaneers almost beat Cleveland last week. Do you think this is where they turn it around, they get a victory? We do have to announce that Josh McCown is starting for the Bucs. I don't think that changes anything.
No, and I think that kind of makes things a little worse now. I don't agree with having McCown come back. I think they need to ride out with Glennon for the rest of the year and see, let this guy have a lot more time to develop. I don't like this at all. And, Tampa Bay's got home field advantage, but we saw Baltimore going to Tampa Bay and absolutely destroy them at home. Bad season right now for the Bucs. I'm taking Atlanta to cover this week.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting pick. Mike is going with Tampa Bay. I'm actually going with the Bucs as well. I really feel like they're pretty close to turning it around. They almost beat a good team last week in Cleveland. If they just get a couple wins under their belt, maybe they can get some momentum. There's a couple things I really don't like there. The offensive line, number one. It seems like their quarterbacks just can't relax at all. And they really don't have a true offensive coordinator. That's something that they're going to have to get in the offseason. They're going to have to get something going. And hopefully they can build some momentum at the end of the season because they do have some good parts here. Not many, but you have your Levante David, Gerald McCoys on defense. Those guys are all pro caliber. Mike Evans is certainly on the come up. We'll see what the rest of the offense can do. I think they're going to need a permanent running back, and they actually have a rookie named Charles Sims who's coming back probably this week. So we'll see if that's the guy of the future. Let's go ahead and move on, Kyle. I'm going with the Bucs, and let's move on to Denver versus Oakland. This is a pretty easy game to pick. I look for Peyton Manning to completely open up because he lost bad last week. He's going to take it out in a bad way on Oakland.
I agree with you. I'm taking Denver, and I think Denver right now is favored by 11.5. I see them covering that. After we saw Denver lose to Seattle earlier in the year, they went on an absolute tear. They destroyed Arizona, San Francisco, and San Diego after they lost that game to Seattle. So I see the same thing kind of happen here again. I can't see Peyton Manning. I'm sure he's putting in double time. Actually, probably like quadruple time for him because I think he already does put in double time every week. I think he's going to make sure that offense does not fail like it did last week. And unfortunate for Oakland, they're going to catch Denver at a bad time. This is probably going to be an ugly game.
Yep. Sorry, Oakland. Another loss there. St. Louis is traveling to Arizona. The Cardinals could be the best team in the NFL. I know we talked about the Patriots, but Arizona only has one loss. Their defense is playing great. Carson Palmer looks unbelievable, which is kind of funny at this point of his career. They got everything clicking, a great running back, great wide receivers, a good defense. They have everything they need, and they're going to win against St. Louis. This is a nice, easy win for them.
Yep, I'm going with Bruce Arians and to beat a in division game, this is a big game, and this is a game for the Rams here to actually, if the Rams can somehow pull off this victory, this is going to say a lot about that team right now. But I just don't see it happening, unfortunately. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think the Cardinals pull away and probably win this by about 10.
Yep, I agree completely. The Giants travel to Seattle. Mike is actually going with the Giants. Of course, the past few picks he agreed with us, K-Mac, but he's going with the Giants in this matchup. I'm interested to hear who you have. I can't go with the Giants at all in this game. I don't know what he's thinking, because the one way to beat Seattle's with the run game, and we know that ain't going to work this week without Rashad Jennings there in New York. Their best bet is probably Peyton Hillis at this point. Andre Williams looks okay, but he's not going to carry the team. And I think you're going to see Marshall probably line up against Reuben Randall, which is going to give Odell Beckham some opportunities. I look for him to have a great game. That said, Seattle's going to win handily.
Yeah, I'm going with Seattle here. I don't think they're going to actually cover the spread, though. They're favored by 9.5.
It's a lot.
Seattle really hasn't beat anybody this year by that amount. So I think New York in garbage time can score enough points to kind of keep it somewhat close. But Seattle's offense is really, their passing offense has been dismal this year, and it's hard to take them to cover that many points.
Yeah, I see what they did there too, because I know exactly what they're thinking.
Win at home in that stadium. Giants, I don't think have a chance.
I mean, the Seahawks, they're definitely built to beat the Giants completely here. It's not a good matchup at all for New York, and that's why Seattle's going to win. I mean, against a lot of other teams, there's some worse teams that actually match up better against Seattle than the Giants do. And let's face it, the Giants are a mess. It's too bad they've had some really bad injuries there. Beeson on the defense, who is a real good inside linebacker. I already mentioned Jennings on the offense. If it wasn't for that, they might be able to keep up with the other contenders there in the NFC East, but that has derailed their season. They still have time to get it back if they can win this matchup, but I just don't think they can do it. I think Seattle's going to start to gain even more momentum. They barely beat Oakland last week. They have something to prove, and I think this is the week they're going to do it, turning them into a contender, possibly for another Super Bowl. The problem is they're going to have to deal with Arizona. I mean, that's going to be a huge rivalry. Thanks for joining us, guys. We're going to pick our primetime predictions here. The matchups between Chicago versus Green Bay, one of the best rivalries of all time. That's going to be the Sunday Night Football game. We'll break that down for you, as well as Carolina traveling to Philadelphia. It's almost time to give up on the Panthers, but the Eagles are led by Mark Sanchez. Can Luke Kuechly get to Sanchez and have a huge upset there in the city of brotherly love? We'll talk about it. Make sure to join us for our primetime predictions. Stay trippy. We'll see you there.